But given all of the action over the past 3 days, I didn't think my followers or Schiff Gold customers would want to wait until Friday. So I am going to do an early market wrap today on Tuesday. Yesterday, gold hit a new all-time record high. It almost hit 4,380. It got to like 4,378 and change. That was yesterday, an all-time record high. It took out barely the all-time record high we had set on Friday for the price of gold. And in fact, last week on Friday, silver traded above 44. It almost hit 44 and a half. We topped 54, excuse me. We almost topped 54 and a half. We got as high as, I think, 54.40 and change on Friday. Remember, the last time I recorded a market wrap, which was a week ago from Friday, silver had just closed above 50 and gold had just closed above 4,000. And so by Friday of last week, both gold and silver had added another 9% plus to those records before we had a violent sell-off on Friday. In fact, from its high to its low, gold dropped $180 intraday. I had never seen a one-day move that big in dollar terms until today. But let me finish up on Friday before I get to today. So we dropped about $180. Silver dropped about $2.50, but still managed to close the week. I think 51.75, record closing week, up 3.5% on the week. Gold closed the week despite that sell-off, and it ended up down about $75 on Friday. Gold closed the week above 4,250. So adding $250 to the 4,000 close that it hit for the first time at the end of last week. So everything was going well until that Friday, but we still had a good close. But what happened on Friday was a lot of people after that big reversal, a lot of people were saying the bull market is over. That's it. Get out of gold. You got to sell, especially the crypto community. I've never heard them so united against gold as they were on Friday. And they were so excited to proclaim the gold bull market dead because they said this is the beginning of the rotation out of gold into Bitcoin, which of course is more wishful thinking and a bunch of hype. Yeah, they really want people selling their gold to buy their fool's gold to kind of prop up the price because Bitcoin is not really doing anything recently. In fact, it's been in a big bear market relative to gold, collapsing by, I think, over 30% relative to the price of gold until the last couple of days. Now, after all of that negativity, in fact, it's not just the Bitcoin community that was united against gold. Pretty much everyone on Wall Street is trying to label this, a momentum play. Gold is like a meme stock. People are just buying it. They're getting carried away. There's a lot of speculation. When that's not the case, not at all. I mean, we finally got some media attention when gold got above 4,000 for the first time. But most of it was kind of skeptical as to why gold was rising and not a lot of concern being expressed as to the warning that 4,000 gold may portend. Anyway, so on Monday, following this sharp sell-off, gold rallied $120 intraday and closed up about $105 on the day. So made a new high barely from Friday and closed at its all-time record high close. I think we closed around 4,360, something like that. I mean, the highest daily close ever for gold. Silver didn't totally recover, but it still managed a nice day, closing above 4,200. I mean, closing above 52. I'm getting my numbers confused here. Closing above 52. So again, very strong, yet more negativity about gold. trying to scare people out of gold, get people to get rid of their gold or not to buy gold who might have been thinking about it. But today was the topper because this morning, gold and silver got hammered dollar-wise like I've never seen. So gold at one point was down close to $300 on the lows. I mean, not quite. I mean, maybe down 280-ish, something like that. We got, well, maybe no, 260 might have been about the low. We got just below 4,100 on gold, and we settled at about 4,125. Now, despite this 6%, 6.5% decline in the price of gold, gold was still above 4,000. The price that gold closed today would have been a record and was a record when it got to this price last week. So all we did is crash to the record highs from earlier last week. But I think this is going to do enough damage to the psyche of some potential buyers that they're going to be scared out of this market when it rises to 5,000 and higher. I mean, that's what this type of decline does. Now, with silver, it was even more dramatic. Silver was down about $4 on the low today, closed down about 370, back below 50 at 48.70-ish. So silver wasn't able to hold 50, but gold held 4,000 like a champ. And I really think that when it comes to gold, 4,000 is the new 3,000 because gold's got real serious money buying it. And I think there's enough money to keep gold above 4,000. That doesn't mean it can't trade briefly below it like it did after it topped 3,000. You had, times where gold got a little bit below 3,000, but it was a great buying opportunity. I think the same thing will be the case with gold. If it gets below 4,000, you want to buy it, but you don't want to wait for 4,000. 4,125 is close enough, right? If 4,000 is really the new floor for gold, if you buy it 4,100, 4,200, you're getting a pretty good price. Silver, given the fact that you have more retail investors, speculators involved, is far more volatile. So it couldn't really hold 50. But I think 50 is no longer the resistance that can't be surpassed. It was a massive double top. The market has already shown it can get above 50. We got to almost 55 in silver. And now we've had a huge shakeout, and we're barely back below 50. So I think this pullback is a great pullback. If you thought you missed the silver run, and you might have when it was above 50 and off to the races, buy it now. Immediately after you listen to this Schiff Gold market wrap, go get some silver if you haven't already done so. Take advantage of the sell-off. Take advantage of the sell-off in gold too. If you need more gold, I think 4,000 again is around the floor. We're going much, much higher from here. And, bull markets don't end. A lot of people are now singing, the funeral for the gold bull market. Hey, it's over, right? Gold is dead. Long live Bitcoin, whatever. It's over. Bull markets that have been going on for as long as the gold bull market has, they don't end like that. If it really was over, nobody would know. It'd be very quiet. It would happen over time. It would be a slow grind, and nobody would realize that we were making a top. Because the markets don't make it that easy. They don't ring a big bell and say, aha, you see this big sharp decline. This means it's over. No, these big declines are meant to scare out the weaker players. As I've said in the past, all of the biggest moves in a bull market are down. So when you get the biggest one-day moves, they're not up, they're down because you have fear. People are afraid that the bull market is over and they bail. And probably there's no, better measure of the fear than in the gold and silver mining stocks, which were clobbered today. The GDX and GDXJ were down about, 10% on the day. But think about this. Gold set a record high yesterday. Today, the GDX is down 14.5% from its record high, with gold making a record high yesterday. The GDXJ is down 15% from its record high. I mean, we're almost in a bear market, technically, right? 20%. And in fact, all the silver stocks are in bear markets. Even though silver hit a record high last week, they're already in bear markets. They're all down more than 20% from their peaks. And if you look at individual gold stocks, right, there are several gold stocks that are down now 20% from their highs last week. So in a full bear market, just based on this one correction, gold is only down 6.5% from its record high. And all of that happened today, right? That whole thing, that whole decline today. Now, despite that, gold is still up 56% on the year. It is having a phenomenal year. But if you look at where gold stocks are trading now, they have lost all of their gains since gold was at 3,750. So the whole move from 3,750 to 4,125, gold stocks have now gone sideways. And of course, when gold was at 3,750, there were probably a lot of people that thought, well, we're not going to get to 4,000. They'll have a lot of resistance there. Little did they know that gold not only got to 4,000, it almost got to 4,500. And the fact that we've now worked off the overbought condition and we've had such a big pullback in the price of gold, yet we're still above 4,000. That is very constructive. In fact, none of this noise, right? None of the volatility of the last 3 days should even matter to gold mining stocks because they're businesses. When you're buying into a gold mining stock, right, you're buying the income stream. These companies are going to kill it in their earnings. Even with the big sell-off we've just had, gold is sold off to 4,125. Silver's sold off to 48 and change. These prices are much, much higher than they were last quarter. They far exceed any analyst estimates of what the prices were going to be. Their earnings are going to be blowout for Q3. They'll be blowout again for Q4. And look at oil prices at about $56 a barrel. Now, I don't think oil is going to stay this cheap for long. It might get a little cheaper before it takes off. But in the meantime, this is fantastic for these gold mining companies. That's about half their costs, right? Is energy, is oil. And so one of the big problems that the gold mining companies have had has been rising costs. Costs have been rising too fast compared to the price of gold and silver. Well, now the price of gold and silver is skyrocketing and their main cost has actually come down a bit. So this is really going to improve their margins. So the fact that gold and silver stock investors ran for the exit so quickly because gold fell from 5,400 to 5,100, forgetting about the fact, 4,500 to 4,100. I keep confusing gold and silver. And silver's into $50. Gold's into 4,000. But we got that big drop, but we're at above 4,100. Think about that. We've just had this huge drop, the biggest, one-day point drop, probably, dollar drop. I'm sure there were days where gold went down more than this percentage-wise. I haven't researched it. But it's never gone down dollar-wise because, of course, gold has never been this high. So $100, $200 is not as big a deal. And believe me, one of these days we're going to see a $200 update. It's coming. But it makes sense that the first $200 move was down. In fact, up until yesterday, when gold was up over 100, I had never seen gold up $100 in one day. Yesterday was the first time I believe that's ever happened. And it was followed by the first time it's been down more than 200. Look, I do remember at one point it was down a couple hundred in a day, maybe back in, I forget, 2015. I remember a day, there may have been a $200 drop. It may have been over 2 days, but not as big as the one today. But of course, it was a much bigger percentage. But all of this is noise, right? This is all about scaring people out of the market. Part of it is just how markets operate, right? Bull markets climb a wall of worry, and they like to shake out the excess baggage. A lot of people get into these markets, traders. They take leverage positions. They're in futures. They use stop orders to limit their losses if the market's reversed. And I bet a lot of people who kind of came late to the party, who put in stops, got stopped out, maybe people who've been in it for a while and who've been moving their stops higher and higher to try to protect their profits, probably got flushed out. Probably very few people expected this big a move this quickly, especially after yesterday's record close and strong gains. Probably a lot of people did not expect this big a collapse on Tuesday. And to me, I think, the mainstream, Wall Street, they probably had to, bring out the big guns to really try to scare people away from the gold market, because they saw that gold was getting a lot of media attention, that the public was finally maybe waking up. Bigger investors were now talking about it. And so they needed to scare people away. Oh, look, gold is too volatile. It's not, you don't want to invest in it. It's just a wild commodity. It's got no real value. Who knows it's gonna happen. And so I think, from our perspective, because we want to keep on buying gold. I mean, I'm not anywhere near wanting to sell my gold. And so to me, I love any kind of pullback because it enables more customers to get in at better prices. And, it enables me. I mean, I actually bought another mining stock. I bought into I picked one that was down that I had a smaller position, and I used today to add to it. Hey, this is a great, the stock I bought was down more than 20% from its peak. So already technically in a bear market. And I figured, hey, let me buy some. And, if these stocks come down more, I'll buy more, right? I mean, I'm not buying the highs because I've got, pretty large positions already. But if the market is going to start giving away stocks, right, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And I encourage, my clients too to do the same thing. I mean, when the weak hands are getting flushed out, that is an opportunity for the stronger hands to increase their positions. But of course, again, the Bitcoiners, as I mentioned, they're all, happy and having a little party here and popping the champagne because they think, oh, finally, Bitcoin is going to go up. Bitcoin, which had sold off all the way down, I think about 104K, which of course is still a lot of money to pay for nothing, but it had that flash crash. And right now it's back up to just almost 111,000.